And people ask me all the time, what are the keys to happiness? How do you stay happy? And here's the thing, there are 3 foundational keys to being happy. And here they are. The first thing is...
This is the Unlock Success Podcast. We're helping entrepreneurs around the world dive deep into the keys you need to shatter excuses, believe in yourself, and help you achieve your highest goals. Here's your host, 8-figure entrepreneur and the living legend of internet marketing, Anthony Morrison.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Unlock Success Podcast, where today we're going to talk about the secrets to happiness. Now listen, we know there's a lot going on in the world right now. We've had this coronavirus. All we hear is negative things. I mean, listen, when you look around you right now, right? I mean, if you just think about it, there's so much craziness going on. And what you have to realize is that happiness, it doesn't just happen, right? Okay, happiness doesn't just happen out of nowhere. You have to create it. And when you look around right now, you see the stock market, you see the housing market just plummeting, right? You see the political landscape where everyone is arguing and back and forth, right? The state of our health. People are so scared right now of what's going to happen to them. Even if you don't have coronavirus, right? Even if that's not a thing for you, you're worried about your other health, right? The other health concerns that you may have that you may not can address because, well, there's this whole coronavirus thing going on, right? Look, there's so many reasons to be unhappy. And I think that one of the first things that we have to do is realize that happiness doesn't just come to you. You have to be intentional about it. You have to seek it out. And it really starts by saying, and literally saying, I am going to choose to be happy today. And I'll tell you something that, it's reigned true in my business, and I think it reigns true in everyone's lives, right? Is that our brain and the things that we put in it, right? The thoughts that we have are directly impacting our output, right? So if we're sitting there thinking, I choose to be happy and I choose to focus on the things in life today that are making me happy, right? Well, then all of a sudden our output is going to be happiness. We're going to look, feel, and seem happy, right? If we're constantly thinking about all of the negativity that's going on in the world, all of those reasons we have to be unhappy, well, then we are innately going to be unhappy people. We're going to be perceived as unhappy people. And trust me, from years of experience, happy people attract happy people and happy things. Unhappy people attract unhappy people and unhappy things. That is just a fact, right? People love to be around people that are happy, right? So the first thing that you have to do is realize that happiness, it's not something that just, that's guaranteed in your life. It just falls in your lap. It's kind of like I tell people in business, just because you start an online business, that doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to make money. You're not like by default, you deserve to make money on the internet with your business, right? It is possible, but you must be intentional about it, right? You have to actually want it. You have to actually go and seek it out. You have to actually believe in yourself. One of the biggest reasons that people fail with online businesses is self-doubt, right? They doubt that they are capable. And because of that doubt, they have so much fear built up in failure that they never actually seek out and take the actionable steps that are required to be successful. And I think the same thing happens with happiness. You have to first realize that we all deserve to be happy. You deserve to be happy. Even if right now you're in the most unhappy moment of your life, you still deserve to be happy. And to get there, right, you have to do the work. And you have to seek it out. You have to be intentional about it, right? It is not something that just falls in our lap. Number 2, happiness is not dependent on stuff, right? And I think that, and I definitely know that this has been very, very true, in my life. That I think oftentimes we think, I'll be happy when I get that big house that I want, or when I get the job that I want, or when I find the right person, the right spouse, right? Like when I find the right relationship, right? But if you realize that those things, like from stuff all the way to relationships, they're not going to magically make you happy. Happiness is always going to be a choice that you yourself make, right? And you have to choose to be happy now. And I think that it's interesting because my dad used to tell me this when I was growing up, and I never really understood it. He said, "Son, every time you end a relationship, you buy a new car." Now, mind you, I was probably 18, 19 years old. I'd started my first business on the internet. I'll never forget, I ended a relationship with a girl I'd been with for 6 years, and I was so unhappy. The very first thing I did was I went out and I bought my dream car, because I thought, wow, if I get this car, this is going to bring me eternal happiness, this stuff, right? So I went and I took this long drive all the way to the east coast of Florida, and I bought this Dodge Viper. Still have it to this day. Blue car, white stripes, like the signature Dodge Viper car, right? And I thought to myself, man, I am so young and so successful, and I've had so much success in my life, and I'm able to go get this awesome supercar, right? Like a car that everyone wants, a car that everyone loves, a car that I've wanted my whole life, right? And I felt like this car was going to create the happiness that I truly wanted, because obviously I was very unhappy in that moment, having lost that relationship. And I think that as my life progressed, I honestly have done the same thing. Every time I've ended a relationship, I go and I buy a car, and cars give me that little instant moment of happiness. But here's one thing that I've realized. And I realized this once I met my now current wife. I was 26 at the time, and I realized that I could buy all those cars, and they gave me like this little jolt of happiness, right? It would last for 30 minutes, right? It seemed like, but maybe it lasts for 10 days or so, right? And then it would fade away, and what you're really left with is where you're at with yourself, right? And how you feel about yourself. And so you have to choose to be happy, and you have to be happy with yourself, right? Stuff can't make you happy. The best job can't make you happy. And here's the thing, wherever you're at now, like let's just say that you are the most unhappy person, right? And you think, wow, when I get that new house, right? And I'm building a house right now, so I know exactly how this feels. This is a house that we've been designing for 3.5 years. Right? And I've told myself time and time again, man, when I get that new house, when I build this house, this just looks like a shopping center. I said, when I build this, I'm going to be the happiest person in the world. But here's the thing. I'm taking who I am today and I'm moving into that house. And if who I am today isn't a happy person, that house isn't going to make me a happy person. No more than those cars made me a happy person when I ended relationships. No more than you hear people talk about like the rebounds, right? In relationships. You end a relationship, you find somebody else, and this is supposed to make you happy. It really doesn't. It's a small window of gratification. And then you kind of have to face the reality that, hey, I'm not that happy, right? So you have to do the work. You have to choose to be happy, and you have to be happy when you strip it all away. Like, what makes you a happy person? What makes you wake up in the morning and feel excited about life, right? Fire about life, without all the stuff and the relationships and the success and all of those things that kind of tack onto it, right? Now, the question is, how do we get there? Because that might be easier said than done, right? And I think one of the things that causes us so much trouble and so much heartache and so much pain is comparison, right? Comparison is literally a pathway to just absolute misery, pain, self-doubt, self-destruction, right? So, maybe you're sitting at this point, you're wondering, okay, all of this sounds great, Anthony. I would love to be able to do this, but how do I actually choose to be happy? The first step is cutting out comparing yourself, right? It's and not just comparing yourself to other people, but comparing yourself to other times and other points in your life. It's the fastest way to feel miserable about yourself. If you think about it, social media is so dangerous right now. I mean, look, I love social media. You may be listening to this podcast on social media. You may be watching it on social media. But the problem with social media is everyone's competing with everyone, right? Like, we get on the internet and we look at the picture of the most successful guy and what he's doing, for his wife or his family, and then we think to ourselves, oh my gosh, I'm not doing that. And so instantly we feel bad about ourselves. Or let's say, for women, this is a really tough thing, because you get on Instagram and the first thing you see is just all of these models and these women that are taking pictures and they're on beaches and they're living this crazy luxury life. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, man, I'm not doing that. That would make me happy, right? Because we're comparing ourselves. Another thing that we do, and my wife and I have actually been talking about this in our marriage right now, is we compare ourselves to previous moments in time. we've been married now for almost 3 years, but been together for 10. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and I think it's important to look at, and we've discussed this, taking the moment in time right now and comparing it to the day that we first met. You're just setting yourself up for disaster, right? Because you can't be 10 years later where you were on day one, right? You can't feel that insane, kind of unknowing, that desire that you probably have felt in your life when you first met the person you're with. And so then you think to yourself, wow, wait a minute, like, I don't feel the same way that I used to. Well, that's not really true. You're just in a different place, right? You're, again, making comparisons. And if you're constantly trying to live your relationship and your life today, 10 years later, and compare it to the very first year, well, you're never going to seem like you're fulfilled. You have to live for today and be in today's moment. And you have to live for yourself. What makes you happy? If it's not a private jet and bouncing all over the country, so be it. That's fine. And just because other people are doing that doesn't mean that it's what's going to make you happy. The one thing that I know has reigned so true in my life is that the things that make me happy are absolutely not the things that make everyone else around me happy. I am at my happiest when I can sit down and focus on my work. I love work. I love reaching out to people. I love helping people, and I think that's a part of self-discovery. When I was 22, 23 years old, I fixed a problem for my family, a major problem. My dad lost his life savings, almost went bankrupt. I started a business, and I started that business to take care of my family. And I think the joy that it brought me to be able to help somebody in that kind of a situation brought me so much happiness that's kind of what I've even though I work a lot and I do a lot of other things, I've devoted a lot of my life to being able to be financially capable of helping people who need help, right? And I think that's been a driving force of my happiness. Now, for a lot of people, that's not what makes them happy, right? If you made them sit down and work all day like I do, and then give their money away in many ways, this would not be the source of happiness, right? And so you can't compare what other people are doing and then look at yourself and say, well, I'm not doing that. I need to be able to do that to be happy. You don't have to be a professional athlete. You don't have to be, an internet marketer. You don't have to be a public speaker. You don't have to be a world traveler. What you've got to be is the best version of you, and the version of you that makes you happy, right? So the most important thing that you can take away from this short time and from what we've talked about here is understanding that happiness is your responsibility. It's not a given, and it's not something that you just simply deserve just because. You have to work for it. You have to be intentional, right? And you've got to shield yourself from the things that cause us the most misery and cause us to have the hardest time finding happiness. And a lot of that is comparison. You're not you don't have the best job like so-and-so has, or you don't have this many followers as so-and-so has on Instagram, or you're not able to do X, Y, and Z for your family or for your wife or for yourself, but other people can, right? What you got to do is focus on you, focus on your life, focus on what you can control, right? And find your happiness within that. And that will be the pathway to keeping you happy for as many years as you choose to practice that. And I think that's the most important thing. I've gone through a lot of self-discovery, especially this year myself, just figuring out what makes me happy and where can I find happiness that I don't where I don't need anybody else to tell me I did a good job or I did this, or I don't have to compare myself to other people. And I think it's a journey that we all go through if we're willing to do it. And hopefully you've taken some good notes here, and that this has inspired you to if you're having a down moment, if you're in a down moment in life, just realize that we all have them, right? It doesn't matter how many of these podcasts you listen to and how many of these people that tell you that they've got the greatest life in the world. The minute these cameras go off, this audio is cut, people have problems. We're all human. We have problems. And when we have those problems, we're not happy about it, right? The difference is that there are some of us that choose to focus on happiness and focus on what can make us happy. And that allows us to live our best life. And hopefully this will be something you'll be able to put to use and will allow you to live your best life too.